Hello! For today's experiment, I'm actually going to be making two recipes. They're both fine cakes, but one is from 1587 by Thomas Dawson. The other recipe is from 1615, and that one's by Gervase Markham. Now the 1587 recipe also includes butter, butter, egg, rosewater, and yeast, whereas the 1615 version looks slightly more bland. So let's make them both and see which one tastes better. Okay, for the 1615 recipe, first I'm going to take 4 tablespoons of butter, and soften that up. Okay, now I'm going to add 1/4 a cup of sugar, 1/8 of a teaspoon of mace, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, and stir all these up. Now I'm going to add 1/4 a cup of water, now I'm going to add in 1 cup of flour, and stir all this together. Now I'm taking the dough and just rolling into balls and then flattening out with my hand. Okay, I've got the oven preheated to 350 degrees, and I'm going to bake them for about 12 to 15 minutes. And now while the first batch is baking, I've decided to make it 15 minutes for the first batch. So for the second recipe, I'm actually starting to do my yeast. Okay, these just came out of the oven. You want to bake them for about 12 to 15 minutes. And then you want the underneath side to be a golden brown. Now while I wait for the yeast to activate, I'm going to go ahead and soften up some butter for the second recipe, which is the 1587 recipe. Butter is melted. I'm going to add in 1/2 cup of sugar, next I'm going to add in 1/8 of a teaspoon of mace, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground clove. I'm going to add in 2 egg yolks, About that, I caught myself right as I was about to do it. I was thinking egg white, not egg yolk. I've added in 2 egg yolks. I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of rose water, Adding in a pinch of saffron. I've stirred the dough together. I'm going to add in 1 cup of flour. Added in the yeast, just making sure everything's stirred together. And the same as I did before, I'm just going to roll the dough into balls and then put them on the cookie sheet. This dough is a lot less sticky and it's a lot easier for me to flatten them. As you can see, I can flatten it with my hands without the dough sticking to my hands that much. So just rolling it into a ball, placing it on the tray. Now I know in the original recipe it actually says to roll out the dough and to cut it into rectangles, but I'm doing it this way just for comparison's sake with the other cookies. This way they can look as similar as they can be, since it's a taste test. And then once I get these all rolled out, I'm going to put them in the oven for 350 degrees. And I'm also going to bake them for roughly 12 to 15 minutes, depending on how they look. You want the bottoms to be a golden brown. Okay, and this is the 1587 batch. It just came out of the oven after 13.5 minutes. I'm going to let cool for a moment, and then I'll compare the tastes of the two recipes. And now that the experiment is done, now it's time to try out the results. First, this is the 1587 on the left and the 1615 recipe on the right. Judging by looks, I like the recipe on the left better than the one on the right. This one's a little more yellow, this one's a little more white. For the 1587 recipe, you can smell a hint of the spice, but you can definitely smell some of the rose water. The 1615 recipe has a slightly sweet smell, but otherwise it smells kind of bland. Time for the taste test. It tastes like a very nice shortbread cookie with a hint of mace, and definitely you can taste the rose water. This is very nice. It's subtle but good. Now time to try the 1615. The 1615 recipe pretty much tastes like a bland shortbread cookie. So it's not bad, just not as flavorful as 1587. So I think today's winner is the 1587 Fine Cakes recipe. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, please let me know and click subscribe.